Welcome to the Catherine Vandome and Me podcast.
Hashtag hosts and the HQFM quiz and bingo software are proud to sponsor the Catherine Vandome and Me podcast. With HQFM quiz and bingo software, you can use this interactive quiz software at any venue. All you need is an internet connection. Go to hashtagquiz.co.uk for your free trial today.
Hello and welcome to Catherine Vandome and Me. I'm Catherine Vandome and I'm a stand-up comedian in recovery from very severe ME. I'm also a published author and my autobiography is out now and it's called The Truth About Me by Catherine Vandome. It's all about entertainment and health, just like today's podcast. And on that note, it gives me the greatest of pleasure to introduce today an award-winning social media confidence coach, and she's absolutely incredible. She's pretty in pink, and it's the beautiful Alice Potter. Hello there, Alice. How are you?
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
It's an absolute pleasure, Alice, and I've been following you on your socials and I so desperately wanted to get you onto our channel because you're absolutely incredible, clearly so inspiring as well, and award-winning. And I've just noticed you've just recently won another award as well. Can you just tell us what that one is?
Yeah, so I've just got the one award. It was my Enterprise Vision Award. So they are the biggest UK business women awards for the whole region. And I celebrated 1 year in business by winning one to watch. So that was incredible. It was insane. So it was such an inspiring evening to be in a room full of incredible women in business and to really feel, even just being a finalist, to celebrate everyone in the room. It was just a huge celebration and it was incredible. So to have gone up on stage and took something home was just incredible.
Congratulations, Alice, and I speak on behalf of everybody watching today. That is absolutely sensational. What an incredible achievement. And because I've read a little of your biog and your background, to me, it really does resonate in my heart with what you have achieved because it's such an inspiration from where you have been on your journey. And I can't wait to celebrate you in your life's path because I know that so many people are going to be absolutely encouraged by your heart and spirit and vocation ahead, to have the confidence to follow you and to be encouraged by you to build their own dreams and hopes ahead as well. And so can you just tell us, you're an award-winning confidence coach. Can you just tell us a little bit about what your job is, Alice?
Yeah, of course. So the journey into my career now has been a huge journey. It's been a lot of lifestyle changes. It's also been a lot of like business changes and mindset changes as well. But to explain what my job currently is right now, and obviously we can go into all of those other bits whilst we chat. So basically I started AJP Social Studio in September 2023, and after 11 years of working in social media and building a platform for myself. And when I started going networking, face-to-face networking, and actually asking other people in business, what is it that they actually need when it comes to social media? What help do they need? And what I identified from having all of those conversations with people and from creating content and just putting out there on social media what I knew about social media, what my experiences were, and educating people, I realized there was a huge gap in the market of people that run their own businesses, run their own socials, and don't necessarily want to give it to somebody else to look after. They don't want to outsource, but they need the right education and tools to, and majority of the time, they need the confidence to be able to do it in a way that feels authentic to them and actually works. Because a lot of the time, people are just kind of throwing things out and seeing if it sticks and then going, oh, I hate social media. I don't like it. It doesn't work for me. So that's basically how my business was created and how it evolved. And over time, I was teaching people about social media. I was doing workshops, I was doing lots of educational stuff, whether it be on Zoom or in person. And the personal journey I've been on, as somebody who's recovered from PTSD and anxiety and depression, I have myself been on that confidence journey of being at complete rock bottom in life and really, really building myself back up. So if anyone is there to educate someone in building their confidence, I believe that I have that experience to be able to do that. So the people that I've worked with have just been incredible. And I don't really niche myself down to a certain kind of area because it's all about the people that I work with, and all of them need somebody to do a little bit of hand holding, somebody to tell them, to kind of give them a bit of a pep talk and say, you can do this, no one can do what you do in the way that you do it. So you have you have full authority to be showcasing that on a free platform that potentially could bring you clients and customers. Everybody has the right to be able to do that. And it's just finding my place, which was working with people in a majority of different ways to make them realize that they have that place there and that they have something to say and it should be said. So that is what I do.
Alice, that is absolutely amazing, and as I said, so inspiring as well. And yeah, what I love about you is that you are, as I described at the opening, pretty in pink. Can you tell me? And I wanted to match you today. I wanted to try and match the pink colour this morning. I was scouring the wardrobe, especially for today, Alice, following all of your pink lifestyle. What's the colour pink resonance with you? What's the purpose of that colour?
So, I always visually, as you can see, I'm very fair skinned, very dark hair. People always have had this, like, before I started my business, always had this visual one look at me and thought, oh, she's a bit of a dark gothic girl, blah, blah, blah. I am, if you cut me down the middle, pink and sparkles and fluff would fall out of me. So when I launched my business, I was like, I really want to bring this like feminine side of me, which it was always existed. The people that are close to me know it, and they know I'm an absolute softie. And it's one of those things of like, when people see you straight away, they will make that impression.
Yeah.
And it's completely the wrong impression. So when I started my business and I was doing my branding and stuff, I was like, no, I really want to bring this like pink side out of me, and I want it to be feminine, and I want it to be like really, really authentic to me and who I am. And it just kind of started from there. So like when I launched, obviously like my logo was pink, but then it was like, okay, well, when I'm creating content, when I'm on camera, I'll wear something pink. And sometimes I'm not head to toe in pink, but it will always be, there'll be some element of pink. So when I turn up anywhere for my business, you will see me in something pink. If I'm filming content, you'll see me in something pink. If I'm doing anything work related. And it also helps me because if anyone gets any pictures, it's that recognizable branding.
Yes.
People will spot me in a photo. They'll spot the dark hair in the bob and something pink. They'll go, that's Alice. I know exactly who that is. So
I love that. Well, I love that, Alice, because once again, you're talking about your social media confidence coaching, and you're allowing the audience today that's going to be inspired by you to think about their branding from the head to toe. So it's not just what you're saying and how you say it and the confidence side, which we'll come to, but it's also how you look, what image are you presenting, the big bright smile that you've got. I mean, you happen to be a very beautiful, resonating lady, both inside and out as well. And I think that's also part of the sales branding as well. If you've got a great big smile on your face, people are more attracted to smiles. And they say that with babies. I'm a big smiler as well, and babies always smile back at me. And I think, unconsciously, I'm always smiling. So it's that sort of personable character that people would be drawn to with you. And I have to say, you have inspired me this morning, because I can certainly, people that know me, I was often dark hair, very white skin as well, but often wearing dark clothes, which was interesting throughout my younger years. I'm a little older than you, but through my younger years, often hidden in black as a professional dancer and everything. And just what you've said this morning is very inspiring. What I'm hearing you say today is look at the outside image. What are you bringing? And doesn't it brighten your day when your wardrobe's brighter? Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm actually in my office at the moment. So the walls in here, they're like a baby pink because I have pink bits around the room. But I actually have a rail in here and it's full of all of my pink clothes. And I always say it's like when Superman goes in the thing and he goes from his suit to his costume. It's like that. And for me, sometimes, I'll go on the school. This morning I've been on the school run, right? Needed to wash my hair. I've come home and had a shower and everything before this, but needed to wash my hair. I'm in trackies, I'm in no makeup, I've got a beanie hat on, I've got my trainers on, I'm on the school run, I don't care. Like, I'm not bothered. But it's like when I get home and I can really step into that business mindset by literally just popping something pink on. And it's that like uniform really, and it makes me feel like no, I'm in my business mind now. I'm in my business mind. And I think especially when you work from home, you need to have that thing that's helps you switch from being a mom or being a partner or being a friend or just trying to do your washing up to I'm working now. How can we get in this mindset? So even if it is just popping something on, and sometimes wear pink pajamas, it still helps.
That's fantastic. I love that, Alice. I really do love that. I think that will really warm the hearts of everybody as well, because have a think about your wardrobe. If, like myself, you have quite a dark coloured wardrobe, or did have, I should say, try and build it up a little bit. Even your mug is pink, which we're looking at now as well. And find a colour that resonates with you. It doesn't have to be pink.
No.
I mean, I'm sure many of your fans will be pretty in pink now as well, just like the movie. But most importantly, it's whatever lights you up personally. And when we have got dark hair like you and I, and pale skin, I was always told red was a very vibrant colour as well,
Yes.
most striking for our texture of skin in some of the model shoots I've done in the past and things. So it's amazing what sort of colours do resonate, and how amazing it is when you do pump up your wardrobe. And as you've just said, even in your office space, you've got your wardrobe next to you, and it's part of the excitement. Like you say, you're putting on a character a little bit, aren't you? But I love that you can be your authentic self as well.
Yes.
So for me personally, going on stage was my job. And again, you're putting a costume on, you're putting on your pretty dress and your heels. This is in time gone by. And for you, I think what you're saying is, if your office is at home and you're on Zoom calls, if you give yourself a little bit of a makeover, or a wardrobe, what's the word, what would you call it, a wardrobe makeover, is it?
just like it's just like having a work uniform, isn't it? That's basically what it
Yes.
is. It's you putting your little work uniform on, or your little superhero costume on, and you
Yes.
stepping into that power that you've got.
I love that. I love that. And I think that will resonate, even across the board. Anybody that's into IT and is feeling sluggish in the morning, or any other job that's purely on the internet and thinking, well, I've just got up, I might as well put a shirt on the top and keep my pajama bottoms on the bottom, which I know a lot of people do. And actually what you're saying is, no, walk into your workroom like you do, have a little think about what you're wearing, and especially if you are on these Zoom calls, speak
Yeah.
to people, and think about how you look, because it's not just about how you look, it's about how you feel. So tell me about the connection between what we're wearing perhaps and how we feel inside.
I would probably say, and the thing is about dressing for the way that you feel, it's definitely good for just building your confidence in general. And you can dress in a way that makes you feel happier and brighter, but you can still be comfortable.
Yes.
And I think as well, we sometimes think, all of us in business, we look at what other people are doing, and we sometimes feel like we're having to morph into other people or trying to fit in with cliques and groups and stuff. And the more that you kind of come back to yourself and think about, well, these people didn't exist around me before I thought about my business. You've got to have it to come back to you. So everything has to be authentic to you and what you like and what you want to represent. You know, us trying to, be inspired by other people, but sometimes if we try and emulate what other people do, it's never going to
Yes.
land that way because it's not us. So going back to the authenticity thing, like that is something that is a huge thing for me. When people meet me in person, they often will tell me, you're exactly the same in person as you are online. And I'm like, that should be the bare minimum. It's actually exhausting to put on a character or a facade or something like that. And also the majority of the time if people are doing that, I think they forget half the little white lies and stuff they have to tell in that process. So I think especially if you are showcasing yourself online for your business, the easiest person to be is yourself, and the right people will love you for it.
I think the best thing is don't start dressing up to be like somebody else.
Yeah.
Find who you are. And I think when you do find your authentic self, I always felt in my career, I was always authentic as myself, but I always felt like I had to be smiling all the time. And one thing I had to learn as my mask, peeled away, if that makes sense, was I'm allowed to not smile all the time. I am a big smiler and I do smile most of the time, but you're also allowed to have days where you don't feel so happy. So I think what I'm hearing you say is be your authentic self and allow yourself to have all layers. So just describe that, coming from your position of having had depression and going through that process. I'm sure there's days today, Alice, because there'll be a lot of people feeling up and down.
Of course.
Days today where you don't feel the big smiley Alice. So how would you advise somebody to to deal with that?
I think especially coming from a place, 2020 was a year that was extremely difficult for me. I was on antidepressants, I had anxiety and depression and PTSD. I was suffering from multiple anxiety attacks daily. It was a really, really difficult time. And I think when you're in a place of that kind of low energy, it's exhausting. It's exhausting to just exist through the day and to find reasons and find these moments of joy. And I do feel like that journey for me and that healing recovery journey that I went on, and it wasn't oh, I've had one conversation, I'm fine. It was a 2 to 3 year journey of really discovering who I was and seeking the help that I needed. But now when I've created such a beautiful life for myself and a beautiful business, and it's all been birthed from that healing journey. So, not every day is perfect. Things are going to come up that are going to trigger me in life because we're all human. And, and things around me, people that I love, things happen, things are happening around me all the time. And, some days aren't great. Some days in business aren't great. But I've always been very honest about that as well. So, I did a post in May, and I'm doing an event tomorrow, and I'm talking about this post that I did. So it's just it's in my head actually. So in May I had my probably from the outside looking in, my best month in business. I'd been asked to speak at like 10 different events. I'd done like 6 in-person events. I had was doing all this work, super busy, and that whole month everyone was saying to me, oh my god, you're just doing amazing and blah blah blah. That was the first month that I made a minus in my business. So my outgoings were more than my ingoings. And I finished the month and I'm getting all this praise from people around me, but actually I was really stressed. I was really skint. I was questioning all the things that I was doing and wondering why certain things hadn't worked and feeling anxious and feeling that imposter syndrome. And is this the right thing? So what I did was I didn't just go, I've had a great, this month's been great. I did a post and I said, this month was the best month in my business, but this month was also the first month that I spent more money than I actually made. And here's why I'm not ashamed about it. And I did a post and I put that out. And the reaction to that post was insane. I had people privately messaging me saying, this has been a really difficult month, I needed to see that, or this was me a few months ago, or thank you so much, I'm really struggling getting my business off the ground. Even people in our heads that we think are doing really well were messaging and saying, I really needed to see this, I've sent this to one of my clients who needed to see this. So actually the impact of sharing, not always the positive, is something that I've always made sure that I do with people, because it's not all perfect all the time, and it doesn't have to be. And when these things happen, we learn so much more from when shit hits the fan than when everything goes well. So I've always found as well, every opportunity that's ended in a no has always opened up something bigger for me. So I used to be scared of no's. I used to chase for this. I used to chase for this, like I needed that validation from people, and oh my God, where are they going? Why is this not happening? And now I'm very much like, what is meant for me is meant for me. What is meant to leave will leave. And when I look back over the journey that I've been on over the last 5 years, I just think, if I'd have stayed in that place, none of this could have happened. But the journey has been a long one. You know, it took 11 years of work to launch my business. And a lot of that was work on myself, because I had this overwhelming feeling that I wasn't good enough, or I shouldn't be seen and I shouldn't be visible. And now I get to teach people that actually all of those things were just thoughts, normal thoughts that we have in our head. But I've made space for myself online. I've made space for myself in the business world, and I am confident, and I will stand in that space, and I know that I deserve to be in those rooms with those people, and I don't need anybody to give me validation for that. I am fully aware of that. But that journey has been a long journey.
Wow, Alice, I have to say that's really inspiring, because what I'm hearing you say is that in 2020, was that when the depression hit, did you say?
Yes.
So that was when, you know, all of us were in a certain whirlwind that was going on globally.
Yeah.
Now, for people who have chronic illness, including myself, my world closed in 2014 when I collapsed off stage and was bedbound with ME. So when it came to 2020, it was almost as if the whole world had joined the ME community in particular, because it tends to be a very difficult disorder where we can't do what we once could. So we were, if you like, slightly, by the time 2020 arrived, the ME community in particular was a little easier equipped with the circumstances, and we watched people's mental and physical health suddenly, as you've just described, that's a perfect description. Suddenly, oh my goodness, what's going on? I've lost everything, or I feel like I've lost everything. And I think that we truly, you know, it worked so beautifully because we could embrace how you felt. And so we became, if you like, the support mechanisms for so many, because people were trying to grapple with the reality of, oh my gosh, I'm now stuck inside. What I hear you saying is that you also, if you like, the lockdown circumstance allowed you the pivotal change, perhaps, to then work on yourself and find your authentic Alice Potter. Is that right?
Definitely. And so to add to that, the big thing that happened for me was actually before COVID, but COVID massively contributed to all of those things. So I left a 10-year relationship and became a single parent. And I did this on New Year's Eve 2019. And I was 24, and it was a really scary decision for me to make. And I'd been in this relationship for a decade and grown up with this from the age 14 to 24. So a massive, massive period of my life. So whilst I was in January and February I had to apply for universal credit, everything changed. My whole life, it felt like the rug had just been ripped from under me. Every element of my life had changed. And then 3 months in, we had COVID, which just went again. I was going through a lot of changes all at once. I was going through a lot of trauma, and trying to get used to being on my own. I had a baby that not long had just started walking. She was 18 months old. And when it was COVID, I actually worked for the NHS. So I did 10 weeks on my own, working for the NHS at home with a baby that had just walked. I'd just become a single parent, and I did 10 weeks alone, whilst going through a breakdown of a 10-year relationship. My mum was in terrible, terrible health. She got diagnosed with a brain condition, and she'd been in hospital with meningitis. She'd been discharged from hospital the week before COVID came to the UK. So if she'd have still been in hospital, I can't even imagine what would have happened. So I didn't have my mum's support because she was recovering from a really serious illness. So I was very much on my own, and it was a really, really difficult time. But I found so much strength in having my daughter with me, and I really turned to social media at that time because I'd built this platform for myself, and I just chatted with people on there and went on my stories and told people how I was getting on, and whether it was a great day, whether it was a terrible day, there was so much comfort in the people that I was connecting with. And looking back now, when you think of all of these things that happened in COVID and what these families went through, and I'm sure, obviously, as you said, you've been living in somehow more of a sheltered way, and it was nice that people could kind of relate to that. It was
Yeah.
such a huge, like, monumental change. And the thing that makes me sad now is when we think back to COVID, I think a lot of people were a lot more understanding, and it feels like the world's kind of gone back to the good people are good people, but the people with negative opinions, it's like they forgot what even happened, and
Well,
what we were trying to do.
I was going to interject with that, Alice,
Yeah.
and say, I was just going to say the thing that particularly the ME community, and I am an ambassador for ME, you see.
Yeah.
I speak for us because we're kind of the lost souls. We're called the
Yeah.
millions missing. I don't know if you know much about our condition. And for years and years, I mean, there's people who've had decades and decades inside, Alice. I've only lost 11 years. And I say only, but I'm a very positive. Go on.
That's a long time. That's a very long time, and it's a massive lifestyle change for you, obviously.
Oh, thanks, Alice. Well, you're obviously an empath and a beautiful soul, and I do appreciate that and your care. That's lovely. And I think that the people, you see, my empathy, we always look at who's in a darker position than us. Particularly when you're an empath, you kind of almost condition your brain to think, well, my situation's not as bad as that person's. That's what I've always done anyway. So in order to condition my brain, certainly back in 2014 when I was poisoned with carbon monoxide, you see, so I was bedbound, I couldn't move my head on a pillow, and I prayed and said, if anybody saves my life, I'll spend the rest of my life thanking them. And I'm just currently going through diaries that I don't remember writing because it wipes your memory. And of course, in those diaries, I've just read one of them yesterday, Alice, and it was quite profound. And it said, I'm going to write a book called The Truth About Me. Would you believe? I even thought of the title. And a bit like yourself, I had a goal, I had a purpose, and I had a mission. What I'm hearing you say that matches my story is that you went to the deepest, darkest point, and found a way and a purpose. How does somebody at the depths of despair continue to have hope?
You've just got to believe that the universe has got something better for you. I mean, sometimes it can feel like you're being handed, difficulty after difficulty, and you can feel like you're getting to your brink and you don't know how you're going to manage, but then you manage, and then you make it through, whether it's hourly, whether it's, watching the time and say, it was midday, now it's 3 o'clock, and I'm here. I'm still here. I'm here. I'm surviving. What can I look at today? What's going to bring me some joy? What can I do that's going to be something for me? And it could be something so minor. It could be, I'm going to go back I'm going to go for a nap for an hour. It could be anything that's going to make you feel like you are taking the tiniest steps towards feeling better for yourself. So when you look back, it's such an emotional thing to know. And when you were talking about diaries, I found found a diary a couple of years ago that I'd written in this diary, and I think it was like the first few days that I'd left my relationship. And I remember I'd written, I don't know what the future has in store for me, but I know that it's going to be whatever it's going to be, it's going to be better than this.
Yes.
And holding on to that, and holding on to that there's something better for us. And I think it's so important that when we have these, when we go through these situations, to share that with people. And if you're comfortable with sharing it, and it's something that I'm incredibly comfortable with sharing, because that was my life, and it's not what I've made my life to be. My life hasn't revolved around that. It's something that's happened, and it's broke me, and it's turned me into the best version of myself that I could possibly be. And I couldn't be what I am now without going through all of that.
That's
So
it, Alice. I think you've just hit the nail on the head. That's beautifully phrased and put together as well, because what you're saying is, for everybody, if we go through to the darkest point, we've then got the opportunity to do self-analysis. We often, in a world that's got a deluge of therapy, we're often, and those are opportunities to get to have growth and develop that too. But what we need to do is look at ourselves. How are we interacting with others? Are we being selfish in our thoughts and processes? Are we thinking, I want this, therefore I'm going to push away somebody else, family or friend, in order for me to achieve my needs? Or am I going to think about how that family or friend feels if I am only thinking of myself? And because of that breakthrough, what I'm hearing you say is we have the opportunity to work on ourselves. And
yes,
I think, I mean, you tell me what happens when you work on yourself, Alice.
I think, especially coming from my scenario as a parent, a lot of people, they think that that's the reason that you keep going, or that's the reason that you start a business. No, you start a business and you make those decisions for you. And I think there's nothing wrong with being selfish. We're told all of the time to, um, to, you know, I couldn't possibly think that about myself. I couldn't possibly see myself as an expert, or I couldn't possibly. And it's like, actually, no, you need to have that belief in yourself, and you need to reflect on all of the elements and the parts of you that are good, that you want people to know about you. And, you
Yes.
know, when you're a good person, you need to remind yourself that you are. It's, I think, especially from my background, I've come from a very people pleasing lifestyle. I It's just the way that I was raised, and I was raised as the child that never had any issues. Was like, so that was fantastic. But also, when there were issues, no one really came to check, because I wasn't really the child with the issues. There was other
Yes.
things that my caregivers had to focus on, and other areas. So I kind of always grew up in that kind of way. And then the love that I experienced over those 10 years was such especially childhood sweetheart, that it was real love. But also, there are lots of things that, behavioral wise, I wasn't aware weren't actually the way that I should have been loved. So I was told a lot that I spoke too much and that I was stupid. Yeah, when you get told that multiple times a day for years,
Yeah.
you believe it.
Yes.
And I, even now at times, and I'm in a completely different place, I'll be in a scenario, in a group situation, and I'm talking, and I'll get these things in my head and going, you're talking too much. You need to stop speaking. Nobody wants to listen to what you're saying. And I know that's just something triggering me. It doesn't exist. And I know that, and I know that I'm safe, and I know that I have value, and my words have value. But I think when you grow up and you're conditioned to believe certain things,
Yeah.
it's really hard to step out of that, and to realize that that's somebody else's opinion of me. That's not actually a factual information.
If somebody says you talk too much, it might be that they are not heard.
Yes.
What do you think about that?
Yes, I agree. And I think I've always had, I think, especially the journey that I've been on, I've got such great awareness now of myself. I'm very self-aware. I can, if I know I'm acting out of 10, I will say, like, I'm quite good with it with my little girl, actually. She's 6 years old, and I apologize to her a lot if I've kind of been stressed in the morning and I've maybe, been a bit more shouty than usual, and I'll walk to school and I'll apologize to her and I'll say, Mummy's really sorry that I was a bit shouty this morning. I'm quite stressed. I've got a blah blah blah, and I'm very self-aware, and I think that's really important. And I think when you've been through something and you understand, I understand that words and things were reflected onto me for a certain amount of time in my life, and it wasn't actually about me, and it was a reflection of something else and what somebody else was going through. And I think it is really important when you think of, when you were talking about forgiveness too, because when I think about how much I've changed, everybody changes and everybody evolves, and you have to just hope that people learn from the scenarios that they're in, and they change to be better, and they change in a way that is going to be, healthy for themselves. And that's all I can wish. But I say, obviously, I'm very fortunate, and I have an incredible, regardless of situations and the process and the journey, I have an incredible relationship with my daughter's dad. We co-parent our daughter incredibly. We have a great communication. We do Christmas mornings together. We do birthdays together, and that's a massive testament to the both of us, and also to me, because I worked really hard to keep it that way, even though I was going through a lot, and even though I was processing a lot of heartbreak, and resetting my mind to what actually was love, and what actually didn't really fall under that. But one thing that I always was extremely important to me was for my daughter. And she's very lucky that she's got two parents that really, really want to be part of her life, and not a lot of children have that. So I was not there to start making it difficult for people to not have relationships, because it's always, for me, been, I have a relationship as ex-partners and I have a relationship as parents, and they're two completely separate things. And I'm so proud of the work and the journey and that has taken to us now being in a position where she is such a happy little girl. She's so well loved and looked after, and she couldn't want for anything. And it's just really healthy, and there's no nastiness, and there's no spitefulness, and there's nothing that I need to forgive for. I've been through all of that. I've processed it, and I'm out the other side of it. And it's
well,
amazing.
I think that's the gift that you're sharing today, Alice, which is so beautiful, because what you're saying is, once you've worked on yourself, then you can be the example you wish others to be. Again, another quote at the end of my book: be the example you wish others to be. Don't try and change somebody.
No.
But most importantly, the thing that I had to learn as a people pleaser, and perhaps you also, was don't try and change yourself to fit in.
No. Exactly.
So the most important thing is, don't try and change who you are and keep thinking, I need to be a better person, I need to react differently to this situation. You need to understand that if there's disharmony, discord in a relationship, whether that be your partner, your parents, your siblings, your extended family, work colleagues, business people, whatever that discord is, if you're not meant to get along with whomever, and it may be the case in your relationship, if you're not meant to be together as a partnership, but you get along better as great friends and great parents, I hear you saying, then the discord was trying to build a relationship together, which for one or both parties wasn't working for whatever private reasons. But what you're saying eloquently is that as a parent, it works harmoniously. But the nice thing about this channel, Alice, is the ability for me to unpack what's behind the mask. And we all wear a little mask, like you say. Your pink is a bit of your mask and your costume, but underneath that, as you've just shared, is a very authentic lady, and wise before your years, because you had to be. And you have to remember that a lot of people, I'm sure at your age, most people don't have the wisdom that you have. And what's lovely is that you're not just sharing the love with the pink and the heart, the sort of symbiotic symbology there of heart and love, but you're also sharing the essence of everything, all of the dynamics that have made you come to this point today, which is so beautiful. What I'd like to do now is go back, Alice, in time. And before I do, I would like us, if we can, to introduce our little loved animals, and then we're going to go back in time. So I'm just going to go and get my little Tinker. Hello there. So who have we got there, Alice?
This is Ophelia. She is the therapy cat. She's not normal. She's not real. She just, I adopted Ophelia in 2021. And she needed me just as much as I needed her, and we call her the therapy cat. And she is just the sweetest girl. You've like, she's just so lovely.
She's so soft. Look at that, because cats don't normally stay around like dogs as much.
No, she's a ragdoll cross, so she's very placid in like behavior, and she's just a sweetheart. She's just she's got very few brain cells, we say. She's an indoor cat. She needs to be, but the only thing we think that she has in her brain is love. So she's
well, she's a perfect match for you then, isn't she, Alice? That's lovely. And this is Tinker, because I don't know if you've met Tinker yet.
Oh my goodness.
He's my co-host on the Catherine Vandome and Me podcast. And so look at Ophelia. She's a beauty. And Tinker is in his 17th year, Alice.
Yeah.
Can you believe? And the vet said that's love. And you've got another cat as well. Is that right?
Yeah, I'll go and get Delilah now. She's not as still. We call this one the Cloud.
Oh.
Delilah.
Look. So fluffy.
She is very fluffy. She's according to the RSPCA, she was a domestic short-haired cat. But
she's really not, is she?
No, she's not. She's very fluffy. She's insanely fluffy.
Oh, she's beautiful, Alice.
She's
My
gorgeous.
Goodness. So Tinker, did you see that other one? Another beauty there. So it's nice. I mean, what's the benefit? Obviously, I'll let you go down a sec now, gorgeous. There we go. What's the benefit of animals at times of despair, whether that be physical or mental health breakdowns? What's the benefit, Alice?
They're just incredible. As I said, so I got Ophelia in 2021, and I've always grown up around animals, and it's something that I always wanted to have, but I was, because my little girl was she was 3 when I got her, and I wanted to adopt an animal, but sometimes they can be a bit funny if you've got young children and things like that. So I'd kind of inquired with a local adoption local to me and said, these are my circumstances. I've got a 3-year-old. Said she's very, very good with animals, but obviously we would need to be an ideal match. And then what had happened was Ophelia actually was in a house. She was one of 6 cats, absolutely adored, and they had family and children, and she had the best life. And one of their children had an allergic reaction. They had a new baby, and the new baby had an severe allergic reaction, and within 24 hours they had to remove all 6 cats from the house, which is just a horrendous situation. And the people from the charity said to me, they said, I've never seen a house like it. The stuff they had for the cats, they were so loved and so well looked after. So they got in touch with me and they said, we've got a girl and we think she'd be perfect. Like, obviously she's grown up around children and things like that. They said, but she's been really shy since we brought her into emergency foster. So we don't know what she's going to be like. So I brought her home on the Sunday, and I'll never ever forget, I brought her home and my little girl wasn't here. And I opened a little cat holder that she was in, and I sat silently. I just sat on the sofa and I was like, I'll just wait for her to come out. She came out, took one look at me, jumped straight onto my knee and didn't leave me for about 4 hours, and was straight away like bonded. And I don't even know. And the amount of like joy she's brought me, and the connection from that, like people that don't have pets, or people that say that they don't like animals, I'm like, wow, they've got so much good in them. But yeah, that's why we call Ophelia is the therapy cat, because she is like, she can sense if something is wrong, and she will not leave your side, and she's so loving. And
Yeah.
I always say she really did help with healing parts of me, just from having her there, and that connection and that closeness, and that reassurance that you get from having them.
It's something to get up for as well. A lot of people,
Yes.
particularly with long-term health conditions like ME and fibromyalgia, they are stuck having the joy of, I call him my son because I don't have a real child. So I actually call Tinker my son, and I couldn't have loved him more if he'd been an actual boy, a bit like Pinocchio.
That's so funny. My little girl, so the girls' names, so she's called Evangeline, my little girl, and then we've got Evangeline, Ophelia, and Delilah. So very beautiful girls' names house, right? Evangeline calls the cats the little girls, and she literally refers to them like as our collective children. But whenever I talk about my children and things like that, like literally, I'm like, I'm a mum of 3. Like they are so loved and adored the exact same way as my child. And something that I love as well is Eve absolutely adores them, like, and she calls them the little girls. So you just reminded me then when you were saying she was like your son. The amount of people that I respectfully tell to go and get therapy, because it changed my life in so many ways, and having that unbiased person to talk to, it massively changed so much for me. And I will never ever stop being grateful for the therapist that I worked with, and the real kind of like journey and reflection of that. And I think people think to go to therapy you need to be at complete rock bottom, and that's not true. I mean, I'm someone, again, as I said, I'm very self-aware. So when I went to therapy, I sat there, even though I was, currently going through a difficult time, I was sat exactly the same way we're sat now, very rational, talking it through, black and white, this has happened, this has happened. And my therapist was incredible. And I had a day, and I was explaining to her what happened on days where I was having anxiety attacks, or like when I felt like I literally couldn't, there were some days I feel like I couldn't even get out of bed. And sometimes this would be for days. And I remember having a day, and I literally was in fight or flight. No, I was in freeze, basically. I was in freeze. I completely could not see the wood for the trees. And my therapy session was like at 6 p.m. in the evening, and it was 9 o'clock in the morning, and I was crying in bed, and I was like, there's no way I can go. I can't go. I can't go. And it took absolutely every part of me to go. And I went in a way, it was kind of, and it sounds silly, but I think it was that imposter syndrome and that, the mind monkeys. I went to kind of prove that that's how bad I actually was, because I felt when we were having these conversations, because I was talking about it so rationally, it felt like I needed to actually prove it and to show, like, this is me on actually a bad day. And I remember going and seeing her reaction to me, and I remember her saying, like, do I need to ring someone to come and get you from the room? Like, it was that bad. But I think that was a massive turning point for me as well, because I thought, if I got myself to that therapy session in that worst possible place, and actually that's what I needed. I needed that validation at that time. I needed her to see me in that way, to really understand what I was experiencing and what I was going through. But I feel like that was a massive breakthrough and a turning point for me, because I felt seen.
Well, I was just going to say, you sound like you have a similar character.
Therapy is something that you have to be ready for, and it's extremely emotional to process, to go through. And some therapy sessions, I would come out and feel like a huge weight had been lifted, and I'd feel genuine joy because I've been heard. And some of them I'd be like, I have just dragged up so much stuff, and I feel really triggered, and my, my whole kind of nervous system is all over the place. But the thing is making that commitment to yourself and knowing that like every time you're going, you're building more towards, unscrambling parts of things that are going on and finding answers to questions that actually deep down you already know, but sometimes you need somebody to just give you that direction or those questions. Or
so true, because that's the bit I hear from lots and lots of people when they share with me that exactly what you've just said there, that if you are not sharing the truth, if you are burying that bit, then you can't possibly find the healing from inside. And it's that mask again. If you can go through the however many weeks of therapy with the mask on, then you've done it, and you say, well, I did it, it didn't work.
yeah.
And the most important thing is to understand that you are your healer. So I think therapy is a lot to do with being heard. I think it's a lot to do with being believed. And sometimes we're in such trauma that we think, well, they wouldn't possibly believe this if I shared it anyway. But it's important that people go through that process. In fact, it would be a fantastic process, I think, for everybody to have. So when the judgmental people, and we have a lot of those around, say, I don't need therapy, actually, that's the person that needs it most. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would definitely, but it's the whole leading the horse to water situation.
Yeah.
Until that person is ready,
Yeah.
it's never going to be right for them, and there's always going to be excuses, and there's always going to be that, oh well, it didn't work because of this, it didn't work because of that. Until you are ready to really invest that time in yourself and understand it's going to be an emotional process and sometimes a painful process, but you're working towards, some kind of resolve, that is the point where therapy is the right decision for you. But as I've said, talking therapy for me was it was incredible, and then I'll forever be grateful. Sometimes I feel like I wish I could call my therapist and tell her, like, I wish I could like bump into her, because it's been a good few years, and she was actually she was a student in training
Wow.
who did my therapy.
Wow.
And sometimes I wish I could meet her and explain to her all of these things that have happened and the way that life is now. I would love it. I would absolutely love it.
Well, I hope she's listening today. That's the important thing. And she may well
Hopefully.
be doing, Alice, but obviously as a therapist, you have to keep that disconnection, and she won't be able to ring you up on that front. But I'm sure she'll be following your life path and hugely inspired and, and grateful that her part in your world has allowed you to be this beautiful spirit that you are today, paying it forward with your job. And I think that's the key, isn't it, in life, that somebody helps us, we then pay it forward and we go and help somebody else. And that's what this channel's all about, celebrating all you inspirational community figures who are paying it forward and helping others by sharing your story. So that's so key, and I'm sure in the future, or maybe there's a way to find some connection with that lady and let her know what she's done. That might be a new path for you ahead. But I want to know, Alice, for anybody, when you said you were authentic that day, without sharing the private sections of your therapy, what was authentic? What was the emotional shift that you faced that day? Was it the unpacking? Was it something specific? And what did the therapist give you? Was it a therapist that listened and just validated, or did the therapist have any sort of wisdom and insight to share?
I think that whole thing of, as you were saying, feeling heard and feeling seen. I think a massive turning point for me was because my therapist was great at listening, and she would ask questions, but it was it was very self-led on my side. And I remember when she explained to me what betrayal trauma was, And I'd never heard of that term before, and it made so much sense to it. It felt like it was the missing piece of what I'd been looking for, and an answer to the way that I'd been feeling, and what I was currently going through in the process. And I think for me that was that, it was that golden kind of nugget that I really needed to really understand myself in a way that I'd not understood myself whilst I was going through that difficult time. So I think sometimes it is about their knowledge and things that they may be aware of that you've maybe never heard of. And
Yeah.
so with that betrayal trauma, that was exactly what I was processing. It was a betrayal of trust, and it was, because when I got diagnosed with PTSD, I felt like I was like, I can't have PTSD. People
Yeah.
get PTSD when they're, involved in like wars or like huge scale situations. And even when I got that diagnosis, I felt wrong, like I shouldn't have that diagnosis, and that wasn't me. And nothing bad enough had happened to me to get that diagnosis, and that was something that I'd battled with. So when she explained more about betrayal trauma and the actual trauma that comes from a betrayal and a trust, so this, with betrayal trauma, it can be a partner, it can be somebody as a child that you grow up with, a figure in your life, someone that you have full safety and security and trust with, like obliterating that trust. That
Yeah.
betrayal is it's something that is absolutely shattering to process and it's not even in your mind as well, it's in your body. Like, and that was the reaction that I was having to what was happening to me. It wasn't just mentally, it was in my body, it was I was carrying that pain around with me in my chest, and I could feel it, and I could feel this constant knot in my throat. It's like it wouldn't leave. And that is what would bring on my anxiety attacks and things like that. And understanding what that actually was and where that was inside me, and how to kind of access where that was. And I can feel it now sometimes when if I'm in a situation where I'm starting to feel uncomfortable, I can feel that pain in my chest, or I can feel it like that knot in my throat. And I'm so aware now, and I know what that is, and I can identify it straight away, and I can quite comfortably say to whoever I'm with, I'm feeling this way. I know what this feeling is. I've got this overwhelming feeling, and my nervous system is it's a bit out of whack today. But I think when you're in a scenario where I was in 2021, I had no idea what was happening. I was just in consistent pain, and my head just felt like it was throbbing every day, like the headache would just not go away, and all of these things. So I remember obviously explaining what I was actually going through, and it was like just like a light had turned on, and I was like, oh my god, she actually understands. What she understands, I'm being seen, I'm being heard. And that was it was it was exactly what I needed, and that it really brought me some comfort. um
And so, what I'm hearing you say, Alice, by sharing that, and thank you, that is beautifully expressed and absolutely resonates, I'm sure, with so many others, that you didn't want to go. That's the key here, Alice, that you
yeah
didn't want to go the next day. You'd
yeah
made a decision that you were rock bottom and that was it. I'm not going, because it is frightening going to therapy. I say in my book, of all the stand-up shows I've ever done, going to therapy was the hardest gig in the world, because it's that, right, okay. It's almost like a submission, I feel, a submission of,
yeah
all right, okay, I'm actually going to put myself into somebody else's hands. So there's trust, and it's particularly if you've had betrayal of trust, as you've just highlighted, how can we trust this therapist in front of us?
yeah
And there's all of that embodied, isn't there? And what I'm hearing you say is that you put your trust in this woman, and it paid off, because you challenged yourself that you felt you couldn't make it. Then when you were actually in front of her, you actually unpack something perhaps wound wise that you hadn't yet unpacked, but she gave you an answer. So we often go to therapists because we want them to give us the answers. Why do I feel like this? It doesn't make sense. I'm actually really happy, and tomorrow I'll be fine. And I think that's the sort of block. Would you agree? Share with me a bit more there.
definitely. And I think, as I've said, showing up in that state that I was in, I really needed to, it was like proving to myself that I could, even though everything in my body and my mind was telling me, no, you cannot leave this bed, you cannot leave this house. It was this thing of, she needs to stay. I'd had a few weeks building up some kind of relationship with her, but I had this overwhelming thing that I feel terrible, I can't do it, but she needs to stay. I need her to understand. And that really, really brought that whole therapy part of my life to a bit where we really, really then started to ramp things up with what we were unpacking, what I was feeling comfortable with sharing. So I think it was exactly what I needed to do, and I'll always look back now and be so grateful that I got myself to that session.
And what I want to ask though, Alice, is what was the feeling inside? Just to share, because people have been, I know in America in particular, people can be in therapy for life. In the UK, we only have on the NHS perhaps 6 sessions, which I don't feel is enough or adequate space to be held with somebody. And so share with us today, what was it inside your thoughts, without sharing the traumas? What was it inside that changed? Because if people can get to that point, we can live free, we can live in harmony, and that's what we need today. So share that bit.
I think probably the real realization that it wasn't me.
Okay.
Because I always presumed that I was the problem. And this isn't me saying that the other person was 100% the problem. Nobody's perfect and we're all human.
Yes.
But a lot of the things that I was holding on to were things that I'd been taught to believe about myself that actually were never true. They were never a direct, it was never something that I had actually done, or never anything I'd done with intent. And I think when you realize that the way that you have been conditioned to think about yourself is actually, it's not correct. There's no genuine facts. If in black and white, it doesn't exist. So when you separate what is actually the truth and things that have happened, or what you've actually just been told and kind of believed to think for a certain amount of time, realizing that it wasn't my fault and that it wasn't actually what I presumed I'd done. I hadn't actually done those things. It's what I'd been told that I had done, and doing something and making someone feel a way are 2 different things. So I think overcoming that and realizing that it wasn't me.
That's profound, because that is something I always bring to the table in therapy, which is, it's not my fault.
Yeah.
It's that age-old phrase, it's not my fault. Or as you quite rightly said, it's not all my fault. Nobody is faultless and perfect, but actually if you're trying to be perfect, if you're trying, I was a perfectionist, a people pleaser, it was all my fault. And if you live like that, then you're bounding yourself by chains. You won't open up, because you'll just swallow it all down and say, right, that's it, I've just got to close this up, which is the human conditioning. And B, if it's all your fault and you continue to believe that, as whatever traumas we go through and circumstances and interactions, then eventually, Alice, I feel eventually that is a contributing factor to chronic ill health. And can you share how old you are, Alice?
Yeah, so I'm 29, I'm turning 30 in April.
Fantastic. So you're in your 30th transitional year, and what you're saying is, for you, life begins at 30. But the most important thing I'm hearing from you is, if you unpack your burdens, you've got less likelihood of having ill health, because you've just shared with us the constriction of the throat. I had 25 years of tonsillitis, which I've never had since the peritip treatment. So that's interesting. So we do hold a lot of tension in our throat. Absolutely we do. And we constrict, don't we? If there's a situation that is causing us to feel uncomfortable. So what I'd like to do now is I'd like to go back to your childhood, if I may, and I'd like to hear a little bit about yourself, because I then want to go on to your current achievements, which are just fantastic. So just tell us, where were you born, Alice, and who are your parents?
So I was born in Blackpool, and I'm still currently in Blackpool right now. And my parents are Janet and Steve. Um, and then I have my sister who is called Ashton.
Fantastic. And Janet and Steve, were they in confidence building as well? What got you to this point?
Well, and they'll quite happily, they've got no issue with me talking about it. A lot of my behaviors in wanting to keep my own family together come from the breakdown of Janet and Steve's marriage. So
Okay.
they separated when I was 8 and my sister was 9, and we definitely were in a lot of scenarios that we should never have been in. We knew far too much at such a young age. It was quite difficult. It was a difficult separation, because it seemed to us as children everything was fine, and all of a sudden we were sat on our mum and dad's bed, and the same day they told us they were separating, my dad took us to his new house, and that was it. It was like we had our breakfast on the Saturday morning. By lunchtime, we told they weren't together, and by tea time, he had a new house, and it was what the hell's going on here?
Yeah. And a big trauma, what you're saying, AJ, a big trauma, a sudden trauma, a sudden change. And then look what happened, Alice, reflecting back on in 2020, losing something that's huge, which is your impactful dynamic of the family unit.
Yeah.
You then were facing an almost identical scenario all those years later. So obviously you've got the buried traumas all rising to the surface. I'm sure your therapist will have unpacked that connection,
Yeah.
and you're back in that same scenario yourself, but a
Yeah.
different chapter. Would you agree with that?
I do agree. And I'll never forget when I found out that I was pregnant with my daughter, and I was only 22, bear in mind, so it wasn't a planned thing. And I remember sitting and having the conversations with her dad at the time, and I'll never forget. And he is the same. We still recall this conversation now. I said to him, if there's any part of you that cannot see a future and a life together, we will not bring this baby into the world. Like she cannot have this broken home out. And my his parents are still together, so I'm coming from a place of like, I'm coming from that broken family and that trauma from my childhood and all of these things, and that was something that we were both very big on. So I think that is a huge thing. And especially when I went to therapy, they said, you, regardless of the issues that were quite obviously there and happening, you tried everything you could to keep that family because you didn't want the same thing to happen to you. But actually, what has happened from that is I left this situation before my child was old enough to be aware of that situation. And now we are in a very healthy situation, and actually everyone is so much happier, and she is so happy. And actually I did the best thing I could have possibly done. I got out of that scenario before she could have had any kind of trauma from it. So I'm really proud that I managed to do that, and I understand now while I was trying to stay, but I also am so proud that I managed to leave.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's so much
You
fun.
had your awakening.
Yes.
Awakening. And that's, it's listening to your gut. I say that in my book also. Listen to your gut. Listen to your inner wisdom. And I'm so pleased that you kept your daughter. That to me is so important. As a lady myself, unable to have children, I think she's going to be your world and your future. And it's so lovely that you've shared that as well. And so you've grown up in this situation, you then have got to this point today, because that's the most important thing moving forward. You now, I'd love you to share your reward. I would love you to share what your job is and how you help people today, including the beautiful pink diary that I want you to share. So just take us through, when somebody does come to you for the last section today, just take us through what you would provide for them, what they would get out of the experience, and what your personal achievements have been yourself.
Okay. So to start off, I have always been a creative in, I think, especially when you look at the colours, I do all of my own design work. I love it. So my journey in my business started in 2014, and I started writing a blog, and I used to sit and create content for myself and post it on my website and also on social media. And I was also studying for my fashion degree at university at the time. So I did my fashion degree, and in 2017, my graduate fashion week collection went on runway in London, and I showcased the entire time that I was making my collection. I showcased the entire thing on social media and on my website and on my blog, and I connected with loads of people through that, and it was fantastic. So my collection went on runway in London, and it was seen. Do you know who the singer Kate Nash is? She sings
Yes.
Foundations. Yeah. So it was seen by her stylist, and she's called Rebecca Roy, and I met her, and I stayed in London an extra night to work with her on a Tony and Guy shoot. And she said to me, will you send me the pictures of your work from the runway, because Kate she'll love it. So I sent the pictures, and a week later, Kate Nash messaged me on Instagram, and I sent off a £2,000 dress that I'd spent 6 months making, and it went around Europe on tour with Kate. So when this happened, social media just absolutely exploded for me, and I'd been building this platform over the last few years, so my audience was already quite good, and because when people were finding me through all of the bits that Kate was posting, I was getting offers for hair shows and fashion shows. They were filming a documentary film called Underestimate the Girl, and they played at every American film festival all over America that summer. So it was insane, and everyone was coming back to me on social and connecting with me, and all of these opportunities were coming, and it kind of felt like I'd spent 4 years doing a degree, which I loved, but it really made me fall in love with the real impact of social media, and having the right stuff in the right place can massively change, your opportunities. So I kind of just grew from that, really, and my collection is it's 8 years old in June, but it's been everywhere. It's been all over. It's been in Italy, it's been in France, it's been in Germany, it's been all over the UK. It's been requested for music videos, red carpets, the lot. Like, it's been everywhere, and that was
And
like
what's distinct about your collection? Tell me a
so
little bit about that.
Yes. So my collection's called Crybaby Club, which is funny because it's like, I always say, like, my 2 massive creative projects that I've done are blue and pink. They're like a gender reveal for a baby. So Crybaby Club is a collection that I created. It's a 6 outfit collection, and it's all about women expressing themselves emotionally, and we're seen as like these over emotional objects. So the whole collection is like, there's over 50,000 Swarovski crystals, like everything's covered. It's beautiful. So it looks gorgeous on runways, and the gowns are like huge tulle gowns, like they're massive. So that was like my first baby, and I loved it. And the work and the opportunities that I got through that all just came from having this platform on social media. So not long after that, I had my daughter, and I continued because I've been building this platform, and then I was a mum, and it was like, oh God, like a massive change in my life. So I continued creating content for brands and doing brand partnerships and working with whether it was beauty brands or things for my home or things for my daughter, and I absolutely loved it. And So for years, like I used to be sent products, and I would create content around, whether it's photo or video, and I just love social media. It was always a really positive place for me. So yeah, I loved it, and I made some incredible connections through it. And there was always this part of me that was like, I know so much about this, and like maybe there's some possibility that I can actually create some kind of career doing this.
It's building your platform, it's having the confidence, isn't it?
Yes.
And some things will work and some things won't work, and you'll
Yes.
go through icky situations as you're building your business. What I originally did was set up my own children's theatre school, about your age, I think I was, Alice. And I started with 10 children, and it built and built and became huge, throughout the Northwest. And people said, go and get a proper teaching job. Don't set up your own business. But I've always, like you, had a creative feel for the world and wanted to make that an independent business. So my heart is always in follow your heart. Would you agree with that? You expand.
Yes, definitely. And I think one of the scariest things you can do is start your own business. There's so much risk,
Yes.
but
Yes.
people say to me a lot, oh, well, how do you do it, blah, blah, blah. And I go, because failure is just not an option. It's got to
Yes.
work. It's got to work. I have a family, I have a mortgage, I have, a beautiful life. It's got to work. And I think the thing with starting your own business is a lot of other people around you won't understand what you're doing, and they won't understand what the goal is. So you have to, on your own, it doesn't matter about anyone else around you, you have to work every single day to move the needle the tiniest bit. And a lot of people are aware, and they don't see that. They don't see the getting up at 6 a.m. sometimes, or sometimes I'm up late at night, or sometimes I'm cooking my tea and responding to emails at the same time. It's the juggle, especially that first year or couple of years. But the rewards when everything starts coming back to you, it's so worth it. I remember in September when I won my EVA, and I'd just celebrated a year in business, and it felt like after that, finally, all of this hard work was finally starting to come back and reward me.
Yes.
And
You were being recognized.
you were being
Yes.
recognized, and it was so refreshing, and
Yeah.
it really felt like this was all worth it for what I'm doing now. So I won highly commended one to watch at the Evers. So what had happened is they've never done one to watch before as an award. So they said that there was about 8 nominees that their applications and their nominations had exceeded expectation, that they had to create a new award, which was one to watch, which
Wow.
again was a huge compliment. From at this point, I'd probably only been in business for 9 months. I'd only been taking money for 5. So I was like, oh my God, okay. But the nominations I've received were like so lovely, because when you got nominated, you were actually emailed through. They didn't tell you who'd done it, but they told you what they'd written. And that
Yeah.
was really, it was just beautiful, some of the stuff that people had written. So
And just
yeah,
remind us, Alice, what EVA Awards means. Just
yes.
remind us.
So the Enterprise Vision Awards are the biggest female business awards in the UK. So
Wow.
they cover the whole of the UK, and honestly, some of the women that have won or been finalists, you're looking at like £1 million business awards, like it's crazy.
Congratulations, Alice. I am
Thank you.
honestly, I'm so proud of you. That is such a journey. Such a
Yeah,
journey to have come on, because the EVA Awards, the best award, you say, in the UK.
biggest female business awards in the UK. Yeah.
Wow.
And
That's
this year I'm sponsoring and judging at the EVAs. So I'm sponsoring the Young Entrepreneur Award. So I'm incredibly excited for that. And I think, especially after winning, highly commended, obviously, what we have to do, and I think especially in business, I was saying before, sometimes it can feel icky to try and say that you're an expert in something,
yes.
but after winning that award and the impact that has had, the only thing I could do to follow that would be, well, I'm gonna sponsor an award. I'm gonna be announcing that award to that winner on stage, and I'm gonna get to judge. So that is the decision that I have made. So a huge investment for my business, but an incredible opportunity to really showcase who I am, what I know, what I do, and that I am an expert in what I do. And I'm extremely proud of that. And to come from being on my Eva journey last year to now get to do that and support the people that will be going through it this year. So the nominations are open from January to May, and then the awards aren't until the end of September. So it's a really long process, the Evas. So to be a part of that and to get to share my experience with the next generation is something that's really, really important to me. So I'm really excited. It's going to be a big part of a lot of the work that I'm doing this year.
Well, that just goes to show, Alice, what a beautiful heart and soul that you have, because you are basically discussing how happy you are to be able to pay it forward. You've had your award so deservedly as well, and now you're paying it forward by encouraging others coming up the ranks and sponsoring, and that's just, it really does pay dividends and credit to the kind of heart and soul you've got, which is obviously resonating beauty. That is gorgeous to hear. And most importantly, now we want to just have a quick look at your diary, because we are going to run out of time. I know, doesn't it go quickly?
So as I was saying with networking, one of the things that I created this year, and I sell them on Amazon, they're just little networking books. So I network in loads of different environments. And one of the things that I really struggle with at times is when people are doing 60-second pictures, and sometimes you've got like 20, 30 people, and it's really hard. You might look at someone and say, I'm going to go and speak to that person. And then at the point when you're allowed to talk to them, everyone moves places in the room and somebody grabs you, and then you can't remember who you were speaking to. So I did a self-publishing Amazon course last year, and to be fair, I've been very successful. I've actually published 3 of my dad's books, who all 3 have been Amazon bestsellers in real estate.
Well
So
done.
that's been crazy. But when I learned how to do the self-publishing for my dad, and I am planning, like yourself, on launching a book hopefully this year, just finding the time to write it. That's the only thing.
I know, that was the only joy of being in bed for 11 years.
Yeah. I've been writing this book for a year, but everything else, I mean, I can't complain for being busy. I'm never going to, but I'm like, no, I need to get this book out there. But yeah, I did create. So when you learn how to do Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing, I also learned how to do like notebooks and things like that. So my networking book is literally a space with pages, and it's all about when you network and you meet people, it's thinking about how can they help me and how can I help them. So sometimes when we meet people, you might meet a window fitter and think, I don't need windows, right? But if you keep a note of them, in 6 months' time, one of your windows might get smashed by a football, and you go, oh my God, who am I going to ring? Who am I going to ring? But if you've got everyone, like genuinely, and I think that's a big part about networking. Some people think they can go to one event and come away with like 10 clients, and sometimes it's about really building and nurturing those relationships. So I created my networking journal, and it's literally just something that when you're meeting people, you can put all the very important information, and you can think about how you could help them, how they could help you. And then at the bottom of the pages, there's little prompts. So there's a question of where did we meet? So you remember where that was, because we go so many places, we do so many things, even if it's on Zoom. And then at the bottom, it's got a little checklist. So it says, have we connected on social media? Have we followed up since we first met? And have we worked together? So sometimes if you're in a situation where you've got all these contacts, and it might be, you know, you're doing an event or you've got an offer or you've got something coming up, and actually there's someone that's expressed interest before about potentially wanting to work with you. So this is an ideal thing that you can go back to. You can keep everyone in one place, because you come home sometimes with a handful of business cards and then they just randomly go on a shelf. So it's thinking about, and also as well, this I feel like is more environmentally friendly too. So you just kind of have everyone in there, like all of your contacts. And
I love that. So it's like it's a combination of a diary, because there's an emotional content. How did I know them, and trying to remember them, but it's also an address. You know, the old-fashioned way, and I do like anything that's old-fashioned. I do. So it's the old-fashioned way of keeping people's addresses all in one tight space, and it's bright pink as well. And
Yeah.
I mean, do you help men as well as women, Alice? I know we've had a
I
lot of
do.
variable people on the channel, that some only helping the ladies, but you help men as well as women. And
I
is it
help.
to grow their business? Is that kind of the premise behind it?
Yeah, it's for me, it's all about growing their confidence and making sure that they are using social media properly. So if
Yes.
a lot of the time it is about really figuring out what content they should be posting, potentially setting their profiles up properly. A lot of the time they don't make it easy for customers to have a journey throughout their social profiles, and it
Yeah.
can be extremely difficult. So for me, it's all about growing their confidence, making sure everything's set up properly, making them post content with purpose that has value and has real impact, which will
Yes.
then attract the right people and grow their audience. But when we talk about growing an audience, it's better to grow by 100 followers and have them as 100 people that are your genuine target audience than by growing by 1,000, but actually 900 of them are never going to interact with any of your content. They're never going to buy anything from you. There's quite a
Yes.
big shift at the moment when it's coming to audience sizes and stuff, and it is a lot more to do with now quality over quantity, because
Yes.
you know you're always, it used to be this thing of, oh, well, you've got to have over 10,000 followers. The majority of accounts that have over 10,000 followers, the majority of those followers are either deactivated accounts, bot accounts, not real people. And when you look at their engagement is absolutely shocking
Yeah.
compared to the amount of people that are actually in their audience. So one of my corporate clients, I've been working with them, their whole goal is like more visibility. So we have increased their so I've just done 3 months with them. We've just increased their brand visibility absolute leaps and bounds. I think their video content was something they were really lacking with, so it's something that I've built into the work that I do with them. So we had on average like 60 people who would watch over 1 minute long videos, and it's now gone up 823%, and we've got like
Wow.
600 to 700 people that are now will watch,
Engaging and watching.
engaging and watching, and
That's
then
fantastic.
yeah,
Yeah.
the audience reach and everything has just gone crazy. It was, I had a meeting on last Thursday with them. So before I started working with them, their reach was about 38,000 people, and then in November, December, and January it was all around the 55, 56k mark, just from the things that we've implemented into their strategy and the
Wow.
areas that we've identified that they need to work on. But a big thing for me is I'm all about creativity and fun and all of that, but your analytics are so important on social media. They will tell you
Yes.
everything you need to know. And the biggest thing about your analytics is it's you versus you.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not
Yeah.
about comparing yourself to anybody else. It's
Yeah.
looking at what you've done and
Yeah.
what has worked and what hasn't worked. And that is a vital part, regardless of your audience size, regardless of how long you've had your account for. Your
Yeah.
analytics will tell you everything that you need to know. They'll tell you posts that have gone well. How can we recreate those posts? They'll say
Yes.
what hasn't done so well, which is absolutely fine, because we can learn from that and go, okay, maybe that didn't work in that format. Let's try it another way. So
Yes.
it's all about learning from your own numbers and
100%.
not projecting or looking at what other people are doing.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And so what you're saying is, just like you shared earlier, believe in yourself, have confidence in yourself, do it your way. You're wearing pink, that's your baby. Find your own baby, find your own modality, your own frame of reference, your own product, whatever it is you want to project out there. And with your beautiful diary, if you want to hold that up again, how can people get that? Is that on Amazon, did you say?
It's on Amazon. Also, I also do a black version. It isn't just pink. I
Okay,
do
for the
also
boys.
mend it for the boys.
Okay, yeah.
So
And what's it called again, Alice?
so it's called The Little Book of Networking and People I Don't Want to Forget. But if you just search The Little Book of Networking, it will come up on Amazon. Or if you search Alice Jane Potter, it will also come up.
Fantastic. And I don't want to lose you because it's been an absolute pleasure. I hope you've enjoyed yourself today. Have you
It's been
enjoyed it, Alice?
lovely. Thank you so much for having me.
You're very, very welcome. And I just want to conclude today, Alice, by saying, first of all, thank you so, so much. Congratulations on your absolutely incredible journey, your award, and your journey with the fashion work that started you off as well. And also, how can people find you, Alice? That's important before we go.
So my favorite place to hang out is Instagram. You can find me on there. It's AJP Social Studio, but I'm also on Facebook and TikTok. And you can connect with me on Facebook and LinkedIn as well. If you just search for Alice Potter, I am the lady that comes up. I'll be wearing something pink in a picture, you'll find me. Um, but yeah, also obviously if you connect with me in any way, something that I do offer, I offer free 30-minute discovery calls. So if you are listening, or if you know anyone that potentially does need help, I do in person and I do online services. So I'm always open to have a chat and to explore how I can help people.
I think that's amazing. And you're paying it forward. As you
Yeah.
said, you had someone helping you, guiding you in your own therapy journey. And now, because of that, you're able to pay it forward. And you've got your beautiful daughter, and
Yes.
you've got harmony in the network of your family. And you've got your father's now got 3 books out.
Yes.
Credit to you. So you've got your finger in different pies here with lots and
Oh
lots
yeah.
of professional work. Is that right, Alice?
Yes, very busy, but I love it.
And that's fantastic. And so your journey has really gone from, as you said, to the very rock bottom to the very top with the recent award. And on behalf of the whole of today's channel, congratulations on everything you've achieved. And we hope to see you again in the future as well. So Alice Potter, it's been an absolute pleasure getting to know you today and hearing all about your success. And long may it continue ahead. God bless you. And thank you for coming on to today's show.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alice. God bless. See you again soon.